Today we're going to learn management accounting, CPA section 2, and our topic is activity-based costing. Initials are ABC. So activity-based costing, these one are related with overheads. So we're going to learn activity-based costing. So we're saying activity-based costing is a method of apportioning overheads to the cost units on the basis of benefit received from a particular indirect activity. So it is a method of apportioning overheads to the cost units. It is a method of apportioning overheads to the cost units on the basis of benefit received from a particular indirect activity, e.g. planning, ordering, etc. That is activity-based costing definition. So we have steps in activity-based costing, steps that you follow when you're undertaking activity-based costing. Number one is to identify the main activities in organization, e.g. purchasing of materials, requisition of materials, assembly, etc. So the first step is to identify the main activities in organization, like purchase of materials, etc. And then number two, identify the factors which determine the cost of the activity. Identify the factors which determine the cost of activities. These are known as cost drivers, e.g. the number of orders. The number of orders. The more you order, the more you incur ordering cost. That is the second step as far as activity-based costing is concerned. Number three, collect the cost of each activity. And then after that, you collect the cost of each activity, e.g. how much have we incurred in terms of ordering cost. So you collect the cost of each activity. And then you allocate the overheads to particular product on the basis of the usage, So those are the steps of activity-based costing. First of all, you're supposed to know to define what is activity-based costing. You're saying it's a method of apportioning overheads to the cost units on the basis of the benefit received from a particular indirect activity. So we apportion the overhead cost on products based on the benefit received from a particular activity. So we're going to look at illustrations directly. We're going to do May 2011, question number 2B. Question number 2B. It is a question on activity-based costing. So we're going to look at it, and then we'll be able also to have another chance to look at another question. So the question read, Muungano Limited manufactures 4 products branded A, B, C, and D. The company operates the traditional absorption costing system. The production manager has suggested that the company should adopt the activity-based costing system in determination of the cost per product. The following information relates to the month of April 2011, product A, B, C, and D. Machine hours per unit. Product A is 8, product B is 6, product C 4 and 6. Direct labor per unit in shillings, 28 for A, 21 for B, and 14 for C. D is 21. Direct materials per unit, A is 40 shillings, B is 50 shillings, and C is 30, D is 60. Additional information, number 1. The products are manufactured in production runs of 10 units and sold in batches of 20 units. Additional information, number 2. Overheads are absorbed using the machine hour rate. Number 3. The quantities produced during the months were 2,400 units, 2,000 units, 1,600 units, and 2,400 units of product A, B, C, and D, respectively. Number 4. The requisition rates during the months were 20 units for each product, while the orders executed were in batches of 10 units for each product. Number 5. Overheads for the months of production were as follows. Activity machining, cost driver machine hours, amount 417,200. Setup, number of production run, that is cost driver, 210,000. Store receiving, requisition raised, that is cost driver, 144,000. Inspection, number of production runs, 84,000. Material handling, orders executed, 184,800. Required, Roman 1, the units and the total cost of each product using the traditional absorption costing system. The marks are located, 4 marks. And lastly, the unit and the total cost of each product using the activity-based costing, 8 marks. So we're going to, first of all, we're going to use the traditional or conventional stroke conventional method. Traditional stroke conventional method. So remember, the essence of activity-based costing and overhead is to determine the overhead cost. That is the intention or the essence of activity-based costing. So we said we are able to know the material cost of a product, the labor cost, and another component of the product cost is what we call overheads. And we are saying there are 2 ways in which we can be able to determine the cost of overhead. Number 1 is the traditional absorption, which you've already done, which we said we use a predetermined rate to estimate overheads. So that is the traditional system. So they want us in this question to use that system to determine the total cost per unit of each product, the total cost. So here we have been told the company operates the traditional absorption costing system. The production manager suggested the company should adopt the activity-based costing system to determine the cost per product. So they are using the traditional, currently they are using the traditional system, and I'm looking at the absorption rate being used. I'm looking at the question. So note number 2 tells us the current method they are using to absorb overheads. They are using what we call overheads absorbed using the machine hour rates. Overhead. So in the traditional, we must be able to get the overhead absorption rate. Overhead absorption rate. So it will be total overhead. It will be overheads here. We said overheads over. Now here they are using machine hours. Number of machine hours. That is the current absorption rate they are using. So we said when it comes to machine hours, you don't multiply by 100. You just use the number of machine hours. So now here, we need to get the total overheads. We need to get the total overheads. So where are we going to get the total overheads? So the total overheads, we're going to add all the overheads that are being categorized under each activity. So that's the total overheads. So here we'll get the total overheads. Total overhead is going to be, we're going to add 417,200 plus 210,000 plus 144,000 plus 84,000 plus 184,800. So this one will give us the total value, the total overheads. The total overhead will be 1040,000. So this one is going to be 1040,000. Then now we're going to get the number of machine hours. Number of machine hours. So we've been told product A requires, each unit requires 8 machine hours. 8 machine hours. So here we're going to multiply the total units that were produced, which is 2,400 for product A, times the machine hours per unit, which is 8, plus 2,000 units were produced for product B. Each unit requires 6 machine hours, plus 1,600 units for product C. The total number of units produced, and each unit requires 4 machine hours, plus the other one is 2,400 times 6 hours. So those are the total machine hours. Those are the total machine hours for all the products. Total machine hours for all the products. When we do the calculation there, we get it's 52,000 hours. Those are the total machine hours. Now we come here and determine our rate. Total overheads is 1040,000 over 52,000. So we do our calculation there. We get our overhead absorption rate, which will be shillings 20 per hour. So that is the overhead absorption rate. When you're using the traditional way, we have one rate that is used across the products. We use one rate to absorb overhead across the products based on the number of machine hours each product used. So for the machine hours for each product will be multiplied by 20, and that one will be the cost of overhead. That will be the cost of overhead. So that is a predetermined rate for estimating the overhead. After that, now we'll come here and list the product there. So we list the product here. We have product A, product B, product C, and product D. So we want to determine the cost per unit. The cost per unit. We said for us to get the total cost per unit, we'll accumulate the total cost of making the product. The total cost, we said, is a composition of material, labor, and overheads. So we get the material cost of product A. 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 So material here, we have the material cost here. Product A, we have been told each unit requires 28 shillings. Each unit of material requires 40 shillings per unit. So here we're going to multiply 40 times the number of units that were produced, 2,400. And the other one is 50 times 50 per unit times the number of units produced. And the other one is 1,600 units. It is 30 times 1,600. And the last one is 60 times 2,400. So when we multiply here, we get 96,000 here. Here we get 96,000. And the other one is 100,000. And C, it will be 48,000. D will be 144,000. 144,000. So that is the material cost. That is the material. Then we have direct labor or labor cost. Direct labor, this is direct material. So we have labor cost there. So we have been told each unit requires 28. Each unit requires 28 per. Direct labor per unit is 28 shillings per unit. So again, we are going to multiply here 28 for A times the total number of units. So it requires 28 shillings per unit. The total number of units produced were 2,400. We get the value there. The other one is 21 here. We're going to multiply by 21 times 2,000. We get the units. And then we're going to multiply here. We're going to multiply here 14 times 1,600. Then the last one is 21 times 2,400. So we get the values there. We get the values. The first one will be 67,200. The second one will be 42,000. This one will be 42,000. The third one here will multiply 42,000, 22,400. The last one will be 2,021 times 2,400, 50 400 here. So that one will be the labor cost. And then here we come to overheads. This one you need to understand. So we are saying our absorption rate we are using 20 shillings per machine hours. So the total machine hours product A consumed will be multiplied by 20. So we have been told here we have 2400 units. Each unit requires 8 machine hours. And then we multiply by 20. So this one to 2400 times 8 is to get the total machine hours for product A. So 2400 times 8 times 20. So the overhead cost here will be 384,000. 384,000. The other one, the total machine hours will be 2000 times 6 times 20. That is the absorption rate based on the machine hours each product consumed. Based on the machine hours each product consumed. So this one will be 240,000. This one will be 1600 times 4 times 20. Why 1600 times 4 times 20? 1600 to be able to get the total machine hours. And we've been told the absorption rate is 20. So this one will give us 128,000. And then the last one would be 2400. 2400 times 6 times 20. So 2400 times 6 times 20. This one will give us 288,000. And then now we get the total cost. The total cost of a product is for making a product. We said it is labor, material, and overhead. When it comes to overhead, we estimate, as I had told you earlier. So we use those methods, either labor hours, machine hours. We use labor hours, machine hours, or so that one will be 547,200. This is 100,000 plus 42,000 plus 240,000. This one will give us 382,000. Then we have 48,000 plus 22,400 plus 128,000. So this one will give us 198,400. Then we have 144,000 plus 5,400 plus 288,000. So this is 482,400. So those are the costs. Those are the total cost of making product A, B, C, and D. My point of emphasis here is overhead. How to determine the cost of overhead? You'll be given overhead, historical overheads. And then you'll be given the method or the absorption method. So you take the total overhead provided and the method of absorption. In this question, the total overheads were 1,040,000, and then the absorption base was hours, machine hours. You establish the total machine hours for all the products, all the products in question. When you get the total machine hours, you take the overhead, you divide by that machine hours, you get the rate per hour. Now overhead will be estimated. The total machine hours you consumed in making a particular product, you multiply by that rate that you'll have obtained in overhead over the total base. So that is how we determine. Now here, the question wanted us to determine the cost per unit. So here cost per unit, we're going to divide now. For us now to get the cost per unit, we are going to divide 547,200. We divide by the total number of units that were produced, which is 2,400 here, to give us the cost per unit. This one, it is 382,000. You divide by 2,000. It will give you the cost per unit. This is 198,400. You divide by 1,600. It will give you the cost per unit. And this is 482,400. You divide by 2,400. It will give you the cost per unit. So let us do it very fast. The first one, the total cost, which is 547,200, you divide by 2,400. So the cost per unit, it is shillings 228. That is the cost per unit. This is 382. You divide by 2,000. Sorry, this one is supposed to be 2,000. So the cost per unit is going to be 199 shillings here. 199 shillings. 198, 400, you divide by 1600. So this one is going to be shillings 124. Then 482, 400, you divide by 2400. This is going to give you shillings 201 per unit. So that is how we do it using the traditional method. When it comes to the cost per unit of a product, you need to determine the labor cost, material cost, and overhead, like we have done. So that is, it will have solved for us part 1 of the question, which is Roman 1. So we already solved the question using the traditional conventional method. We're also going to look at using ABC or activity-based method. So here we are supposed to determine the cost drivers. So cost driver rates. So we're going to determine the cost drivers rates, which is equals to overheads, which is equals to overhead over the cost driver. Overhead over the cost driver. So we have the activity. The question will also give you the activity, like we have the machining, setup, store receiving, inspection, and material handling. So the first one is the machining. So the first activity here is the machining. So right there, the machining. So the machining here, we have been told the machine hours. So it will be the overhead over the number of machine hours. So the total overhead that is allocated to machining activity is 417,200. This one is provided. And then the total machine hours, although we had done it, it was 52,000, although we can do it again. So the total machine hours, we had done it already, it was 52,000 hours. So we're going to divide that one. 417,200 divided by 52,000. So we're going to get 8.02. So it's going to be shillings 8.02 per hour. 8.02 per hour. That is the machining activity. We're going to absorb it based on the number 2 here. We have setup. Setup is going to be overhead over the number of production run. Number of production runs. So we want to determine the number of production runs. We have been told in note number 1, the products are manufactured in production run of 10 units and sold in batches of 20. So in other words, 1 unit requires 10 runs. A production run of 10 units. 1 run, is equivalent to 10 units. 1 run is equivalent to 10 units. And then, now we ask ourselves, we are producing 2,400 here. 2,400 here. 2,400. 2,400 units. Now, our question will be, 1 run is equal to 10 units. These are units, and these are runs. So what about 2,400? So for product A, it will be 2,400. You divide by 10. You get the number of runs. Product B is going to be, the total number of units that you're producing is 2,000 units. 2,000 units, you divide by 10. And product C, it is 1,600. You divide by 10. You are determining the total runs. And then product D is going to be 2,400. You divide by 10. So this one is going to be 240. This is 200. This is 160. And this is 240. Then we add all of this. So the total is 840. 840. So 840, so which is going to be overhead that is allocated to setup is 210,000. So it's going to be 210,000. 210,000. 210,000. 210,000, you divide 840. So you get it is shillings 250 per setup. 250 per setup. That is for setup. Then number 3 here, we are going to determine store receiving. Stores receiving. That is the second activity, the third activity. So it will be overhead, that is the formula, and the cost driver base, the cost driver here is requisition raised. Requisitions raised. So we are going to determine, already you have been given the value for overheads, the total. So we are going to determine the number of requisitions. So here the requisitions here. The requisitions. We are going to determine the requisitions raised, the number of requisitions raised. In note number 4, the requisition raised during the months were 20 units for each product. 20 units for each product. So 20 units for each product, while the orders executed were in batches of 20 units for each product. So the requisition raised were 20 units for each product. So 20 units for each product. So we are going to divide. For product A, it will be 2,400. You divide by 20. For product B, it will be 2,000. You divide by 20. For product C, it's going to be 1,600. You divide by 20. And for the product D, it's going to be 2,400. You divide by 20. So that one will give us, this is 120. This is 120. The next one is 100. This is 180. And this is 120. And then we get the total. The total, which is 420. So here we get the 420. So the absorption rate will be, total overhead for requisition is 144,000. You divide by 20. So you get it is 342 shillings. 342.86. That is requisitions. And then we have inspection. That is number 4. Number 5, we have inspection. Inspection, it is overhead here over number of production run. Number of production runs. Overhead over number of production run. So the total overhead for inspection is 84,000. We had already determined the number of production run. Where? Here. The total is 840. So we're going to divide by 840 in order for us to get there, which is 1,000 shillings. 1,000. 840,000. That is 100. So it will be shillings 100 here. And lastly, we are going to get material handling. We have material handling here. So which is going to be material handling, which is going to be overheads over orders executed, over number of orders executed. Numbers of orders executed. So we get the number of orders executed. Number of orders executed. Number of orders executed. Number of orders executed. In note number 4, they told us The requisition rates during the months were 20 units for each product, while the orders executed were in batches of 10 units for each product. 10 units. So one execution is equivalent to 10 units. So we also divide. So we're going to divide for product A is going to be 2,400. You divide by 10. For product B is going to be 2,000. Why 2,400? Those are the total number of units that were produced for product A. Why 2,000? Those are the total number of units that were produced for product B. And we have been told the orders executed in units of 10. So in other words, one order is equivalent to 10 units. What about 2,400 units? You divide. So that is, you divide by 10 here. C, it was 1,600 units. You divide by 10. And D is 2,400 units. You divide by 10. So this one will be 240, 200, 160, 240. The total is 800 and the total is 840. 840. And then now here, the overheads allocated for material handling is 184,800. So you divide by 840, 184, 800, 184, 800, you divide by 840. So you get it's 220 shillings per order. So that is overheads. And then now here, we come here and we finish now the total cost per unit. So we have product A, B, C, and D. Product A, C, and D. So we said we have the material cost. We have the material cost. We had already determined the cost of material for product A. It was 96,000. This one doesn't change. For product B, it was 100,000. 100,000. This is 48,000. And product D, it was 144,000. 144,000. We had determined that one already. And then labor, we had also done it. For product A, it was 67,200. 67,200. For product B, it was 42,000. For product C, it was 22,400. 22,400. And for product D, it was, for product D, it was 2,400. 2,400. You multiply by, we had already done that, by 21. So it was 5,400. So this was 5,400. Now here we come here, overheads. So overhead here we said, we use what we call activity-based costing. So it will be based on the activity. The first activity here is machining. The first activity here is machining. Machining, we come for, it was 8.02 per machine hours. So we determine the total machine hours for product A. The total machine hours for product A, it will be 2,400. 2,400 times 8. And then times 8.02. So that one will give us the total overhead cost there. The total overhead cost. So it will be 2,400 times 8 times 8.02. So it will be 153,984. So the overhead here is 153,984. That is, then here it will be, so we are multiplying 2,000 here. We multiply by 2,000 times, we multiply by the total machine hours per unit was 6 here times 8.02. So this one will give us, this one will be 2,000 times 6 times 8.02. So this one will be 96,240. 96,240. The next one is 1,600. 1,600 So this one will be 1600. 1600 times, you multiply by 4 times 8.02, which will give us 1600. You multiply by 1600, you multiply by 4, you multiply by 8.02, which is 51,328. And lastly, the last one, on machining, we have what we call product D. Total machine hours is 6 times 2400. So this one will be 6 times 2400 times 8.02, which is going to give us 115,488. So that one will be there for machining activity. Then we have setup cost. After machining, we have setup cost. So we come here and say setup cost. After we have the setup cost here. So setup costs. So we have been told the setup cost, the setup was 250 per setup. So the total number of setup for product A was 240. So it's going to be 240 here. You multiply by 250. You multiply by 250, you get the answer here. Then here it will be 200. This one is going to be 200 times 250. And this one is going to be, you get the answer here. This one is going to be 160. Total, the number of setups for product C was 160 times 250. And then for product D, it's going to be 240 times 250. You get the answers there. So we'll do the answers. So we do very fast. So this is 240 times 250. This is 60,000. So we write here 60,000. This is 200 times 250. This is 50,000. And then 160 times 250. This is 40,000. And then 240 times 250. This is 60,000. That is setup. That is setup. That is setup. That is setup. The next one is what we call, after setup, is stores receiving. Stores receiving. Stores receiving. So it's going to be stores receiving. The absorption rate is number of requisition. So it is 486 times. So this one is going to be 120 times 342.86. Get the answer here. And then the other one is going to be 100 times 342.86. Get the answer here. And this one is going to be 80 times 342.86. Get the answer here. And lastly, 120 times 3. It's going to be 120 times 342.86. Get the answer there. So when you do that, we'll do that one. So 120 times 342.86. So this is 1143.2. This 342.86 times 100. This is 34,286. And this is 80 times 3342.86. This is 27,428.8. This is 120 times 342.86. This is 41143.2. So that is stores receiving. The next one is inspection. The next one is inspection. inspection is going to be based on the number of production run. So the first one will be 840, sorry, it will be 240, to be 240 times 100, 200 times 100. The third one is 160 times 100, and lastly it will be 240 times 100. So this one will be 2,400, 2,000, 1,600, 2,400. So that is inspection. Lastly, material handling. Material handling will be the last one. Material handling, we're going to multiply or number of orders executed. It is 220. So this one will be 240 times 220. So this is going to be 200 times 220. And this is going to be 160 times 220. And lastly, 240 times 220. So we're going to multiply that one. 152,800. 52,800. This is 52,800. The last one here. The first one is 52,800. 44,000. 35,200. 52,800. So that is what we call activity-based costing. Overheads are determined based on the activity, number of activities. So you allocated overhead based on the benefit you received from the activity. And for us to do that, first of all, you must determine the cost driver rate, the way we have done. So we're going to add this plus this plus this plus this plus this plus this plus this in order to determine the total cost. Total cost. We're going to get the total cost of each product. Total cost of each product. For product 1, it will be 33,1926. 33,1926. 33,1926.84. 0.84. And for product, those ones that have equal signs, so we are adding this one, this, this one, and this one. So those are the one that I have ticked are the one that we are adding in order to get the total cost of the product. So this one will be 294,525. 294,525. 294,525.7. And the next one will be 1699. So this is the last one here. We're going to add this, and those one are the one that we are adding. So it will be 48,000 plus 22,400 plus 51,328 plus 40,000 plus 27,428.8 plus 1,600 plus 35,200. So the total is 22,596.8. Then this one is the last one. We're going to add there, space there. So we're going to add this. So we're going to add those values there, and we get the last one, which is, so this is 466,233.2. So the cost per unit here, the cost per unit we're going to divide this one by the number of units, which is 2,400 here. We're going to divide by that. Here we're going to divide by the number of units here is 2,000. And here we're going to divide by 1,600. And here 2,400. So the cost per unit, so we are dividing that one by those figures there. So the cost per unit to be 206.3 here. 206.3 shillings, 206.3. The next one will be 218.26. 218.26. And the other one is 150.22. This is 150.22 shillings. This one, to be divided by 2,400, it will be 194.2. 194.2. So that one will bring us to the end of that question. That is activity-based costing. So just a recap of what you're supposed to do. When it comes to activity-based costing, overheads are allocated on the base of the benefit you receive from the indirect activity. So the activities are normally given in the question. Like in our question, we have been given activity like machining. So the overheads are caused by these activities according to activity-based costing. So we have an activity here called machining, setup, store receivings, requisitions, inspection, material handling. So overhead will be based on those activities. So we are going to determine what we call the cost driver rates. So based on how you benefited from that activity, overheads will be allocated based on that. So that is how we do it. We'll do another question to reinforce what we have discussed. We're going to do another question on activity-based costing. This is August CPA, August 2009, question number 2. Question number 2. So the question required us, question number 2A said, briefly explain 4 bases of apportionment of overheads. So we discussed about the basis of apportioning overheads. For instance, we said we have the floor area. We use the floor area to apportion overheads like rent and rates, lighting, electricity, etc. So they wanted you to explain those one. But our point of interest is part B, which says Tangaza Limited makes 3 main products using broadly the same production methods and equipment for each. A conventional product costing system is used at present, although an activity-based costing ABC system is being considered. Details of the 3 products for the typical period are, we have A, we have been given the labor hours, B, we have been given C, labor hours, machine hours, material cost per shillings per unit, and volumes in unit. So direct labor cost is 12 shillings per hour, and production overheads are absorbed on machine hours basis. The rate for the period is 56 per machine hours. So further analysis shows that the cost of production overheads can be divided as follows. Cost relating to setups 35%, cost relating to machinery 20%, cost relating to material handling 15%, cost relating to inspection 30%, total 100%. The following activity volumes are associated with the product line for the period as a whole. So we have number of setups, products, total activities. So required, calculate the cost per unit for each product using the conventional method. And number 2, calculate the cost per unit for each product using activity ABC principles. And number 3, state the reasons for the differences between the 2 methods. So we're going to do part 1. Part 1, using the conventional method. So we said using the conventional method, you have one absorption rate. So here we normally say overhead absorption rate is equals to total overheads over the base. So here already, the question here had given us the rate. The question had given us the absorption rate. When you look at the question carefully, they have given us the rate. So the overhead absorption rate here is 56. And the overheads is not provided. and the base you have told us is the number of machine hours. The number of machine hours. So we are able to determine the number of machine hours here. So for product A, the total volume of units that are being produced is 1500, and each unit requires 3. So the machine hours here is going to be 1500, the number of units that are being produced, and each unit requires 3 hours, 3 machine hours for it to be produced. So we're going to multiply by 3 here. We're going to multiply by 3 plus, we are producing 2,500 units of B, and each unit requires 2. These are given, plus 14,000 here times 6. 14,000 times 6. So here when you do this one, we get the total machine hours. We get the total machine hours. It will be 1500 times 3 plus 2,500 times 2 plus 14,000 times 6. So this is 93,500. So we have been given the rate. The normal way is for you to determine the rate. But in this question, the normal way is to determine the rate, where the question will provide overheads and the base. So in this question now, they had given you the rate and the total machine hours, the base that is. So they wanted you to determine first of all the overheads. For us to do that, we're going to multiply both sides by 93,500 or 93,500 here. So this one will go with this one. So the total overheads here, the total overheads will be times 56. It will be 5,236,000. 5,236,000. That is the total overheads. That is the total overheads. Then here we're going to say we have product A, B, and C. So we have 3 products here. So they want us to determine the cost per unit. So before you determine the cost per unit, we said you accumulate the total cost. You accumulate the total cost. So the total cost here, first of all, we are going to get the labor, we get the material cost. So here the material cost, we have 1,500. So per unit. So we've been given the cost per unit is 40 shillings for product A. Each unit of product A requires 40 shillings of material. So we're going to multiply 1,500, you multiply by 40 in order to determine in order to get the material cost, the total material cost. This one, the total units being produced 2,500, you multiply by 24. That is the cost per unit of material. The total units being produced here is 14,000 units. You multiply by 50, which is so this one will give us 60,000. This one also give us 60,000. This one is going to give us 700,000. That is material. Then there is labor cost. There's labor cost. So we've been told each unit of product A requires 1 hour. So we get the total number of hours here. So it will be 15 times 1 to get the total number of hours. And each hour requires 12 shillings. And then here we're going to multiply 2,500 times 3. Each unit requires 3 hours, and then the rate is 12. You get the 12. Here is 14,000 times 2 times 12. So that is the labor. That is the labor. So it's going to be 1,500 times 1 times 12. So this one is going to be 18,000. 18,000. 2,500 times 3 times 12. This is going to be 90,000. 14,000 times 2 times 12. This is going to be 336,000. So that is the material, that is labor. And then the next one is overheads now. Overheads. The next one is overheads. So overheads, we have been told it is per machine hours. The rate had already been given, which is 56 per hour. So here the total machine hours is 1500 times 3 times 56. You get the labor. The overheads. This is 2500 times 2 times 56. And this is 14,000 times 6. Why 14,000 times 6? 14,000 that the total units produced. And each unit requires 6 machine hours. So when you multiply the total number of units produced times the machine hour per unit, we get the total machine hours, and the rate which they have already given us, 56, we get the total overhead. So we said traditionally we use one rate for all the products times 3 times 56. So this one will give us 252,000. This one will give us 280,000. So this one will give us 4,704,000. 4,704,000. And then we get the total cost. We get the total cost. So this one will be 60,000 plus 18,000 plus 252,000. So this one is 330,000, the total cost. Then 60,000 plus 90 plus 280,000. So we get 430,000. We have 700,000 plus 336,000 plus 4,704,000. So these are the total cost of product A for making product A, total cost of making product B, and total cost of making product C. But the question required us to determine the total cost the cost per unit. So the cost per unit here, the cost per unit will be the total cost, which is 330. You divide by the number of units that were produced, which is 1500, and then you'll be able to get the cost per unit. So here, also do the same, 430,000. You divide by the number of units that were produced, which is 2,500, you get the cost per unit. There is 5,740,000, you divide by 14,000, and you'll be able to get the cost per unit. So when you do it very fast, we'll do it very fast. So this is 330,000, you divide by 1,500. So this one is shillings 220 per unit. And this other one is product B. It will be 172 shillings per unit. So this one is 410 shillings per unit. So that is a traditional method of doing it. It is conventional or traditional method. Conventional or traditional method. So now we're going to use the activity-based costing. We're going to use the activity-based costing method. Activity-based costing method. We're going to use the activity-based costing method. So we are going to use the activity-based costing method. Activity-based costing method, ABC. So remember, for you to be able to do activity-based costing, you need to have the overhead for each activity. So in this question, they have only given us a percentage of the activity on the total overhead. We had already determined the total overhead to be 5,236,000. So we are going to take the percentage provided of each activity in order to get the overhead for each activity. Like now cost relating to setup. Cost relating to setup is 35%. 35% of the total overhead, which is 36,000. Cost relating, we had already determined the total overhead while doing so cost relating to setup, cost relating to machinery, cost relating to machinery, cost relating to machinery, it will be 20% of 52,36,000. Cost relating to material handling, cost relating to material handling, cost relating to material handling is 15% of 52,36,000. Cost relating to inspection, cost relating to inspection, cost relating to inspection, cost relating to inspection, it is 30% of 52,36,000. So you're going to get that one. We're going to get 35% of 52,36,000. That is 82,32,600. This is 18,32,600. So in other words, you must make sure that you have overhead that is allocated for each activity, to each activity. You must have overhead allocation to each activity for you to be able to successfully do question on activity-based costing. So this one will be 1047,200. This is 15%. This is 785,400. This is 30%. This is 15,70800. So those are the overhead allocation for each activity. We had been given the block figure of the overheads, so we are supposed to subdivide it among the activity as indicated. Then you are going to get the cost driver rates. Cost driver rates, which we said it's overhead over the cost driver. Overhead over the cost driver. So we're going to get the cost driver rates. So the first one here is setup. So for setup here, we are going to get the overhead. The formula will be overhead. And the cost driver for setup, we have been told, is number of setup. So we have number of setup here. So number of setups. So the number of overheads, it is there, 18,32,600. Number of setup in this question, we have been given the total is 670. For each product also is provided. So for each product is also provided. So it's going to be 82,32,600. You divide by 670. So this one going to be shillings to 27.35 per setup. That is number one. Number two, machinery. Cost relating to machinery. Going to be overhead over the number, cost related to machinery over number of machine hours. So it will be number of machine hours. That is the cost driver. So overhead here, it is 10,47,200. The total machine hours we had determined it was 93,500. 93,500. This one we had already done it. 10,47,200 divided by 93,500. So it is going to be shillings 11.2 per hour. 11.2 per hour. That is machinery. And then material handling. Number 3 is material handling. Material handling is going to be overhead over number of movement, number of movement, number of material movement. So number of material movement, number of material movement. So the overheads has already been determined, which is 785, 400. The total number of movement we have been given in the question, which is 120 for each product in the total. So the total is 120 for each product is also provided. So we're going to divide by 120. So here it's going to be shillings 65.45 per unit. And lastly, we are going to have inspection here. Number 4, we are going to have inspection. So here we're going to write inspection, which is going to be overhead over number of inspection, So you're supposed to be able to know, the driver, the cost driver of each activity. Some questions are very explicit, others you're supposed to know them. Like for instance, material handling, number of material movement, machinery, number of machine hours, setup, number of setup. And here, so the overhead here, it is 1570, 800. Number of inspection is 1000. So here 1000. So it's going to be $1,000 per inspection. So it's going to be that per inspection. Per inspection. And then now we are going to determine the total cost of the products. So we have product A, B, and C. So we said the total cost of a product is composed of material cost. So we already had determined the material cost for each product. Here it was 60,000. It was 60,000. 60,000. And here it was 700,000. It was 14,000. 14,000 multiplied by 50, which is 700,000. So we had already done this one for material cost. And then we have labor cost, which is also the same under the two methods. This was 18,000 here. We had done this one. This is 18,000, and this was 9,000. This was 9,000, and the other one was 336,000. So this one we had already done it. Now here we come here and say overheads. Let me write it properly. Overheads. So we come here and write overhead. So the first overhead here is setups. Setup. So we said based on the number of setups, we had already determined the rate, which was 2735.22. 2735.22. We multiply by the number of setup which are given. This one is 75. We get this is 2735.22 times 115 setups. And this one is 2735.22 times number of setup is 480. So you'll be able to get the setup cost. So we're going to multiply this one. 2735.22 times 75. So this one is going to be 205,141.5. This is 2735.22 times 115. This is 314,550. The last one is 2735.22 times 480. So this is going to be 1,312,906. 906. And then we have machinery here. We have machinery. So the rate for machinery was 11.2. So we're going to determine the total machine hours here, which is 1,500 times 3 times 11.2. 1,500 are the total number of units that were manufactured. Each unit required 3 machine hours for it to be manufactured, and the rate according to our calculation was 11.2. So it will give us the answer there. So next is 2,500. 2,500 you multiply by 2 times 11.2. And lastly, we have 14,000. You multiply by 6 times 11.2. So to give us those. So this one is 1,500 times 3 times 11.2. So this is 5,400. 5,400. 56,000. This is 90 and 40, 800. So that is machinery. That is machinery. Then we have material handling. The material handling. The rate was, for material handling, the rate was 6545. 6545 times the material movement, number of material movement. Here we're going to multiply by 12. Here 6545, we're going to multiply by 21. Why 21? It was based on the number of material movement, and product B had 21 movements. This one is going to be 14,000. You multiply by 87. Why 87? It is based on the material movement. Product C had 87 movements. So this is 6545. This is 78,540. This is 137,445. This is 1,218,000. And then lastly, we have inspection. We have inspection. The rate is 1570.8. 1570.8 times the number of inspection. Here it was 150. This one is 180 times 1570. This is 670 times 1570. Then we are going to get the totals. The total of material, labor, and overheads. We're going to get the totals. So this is 60,000 plus 18,000 plus 20, 51, 41.5 plus 50, 400 plus 785, 40 plus 235, 620. So this one is 647. That one is that, like that. The next one is 940. 739. And lastly, we have 491. So we're going to get the cost per unit. So to be the total cost, which is total cost, we divide by the total number of units that were produced. Here were 1500 units. Here we're going to divide by 739. Total number of units produced here were 2500. You get the total cost per unit. Then here is 559, 606. You divide by the total number of units here, 14,000. So you divide by 14,000. So this is 300. So this one will be 307.1. So this is going to be this is shillings, 376.3 per unit. This is 431.8 per unit. Those are shillings. So that one will bring us to the end of that question. So this is how we do activity-based costing. You need to know how to determine the cost drivers, and overhead are allocated based on the activity overheads. So we're going to determine how each and every product benefited from each activity. After determining the rate, we're going to allocate overhead based on how each product benefited from each activity as indicated here. So that was August 2009, question number 2B. Question number 2B. So we are going to look at assignment. We're going to give you assignment to reinforce these questions. We're going to give you assignment so that you are able to do more of this question. So assignment, you will attempt December 2009 question 3B, December assignment here, December 2009 question 2B, December 2009 question 2B, and also lately, just a minute. You also attempt May 2017, question number 3B. These are CPA, not ATD. So attempt those two questions, pause them, and let me know. In case of any difficulties, please contact me on this number. In case of anything that is not understandable, you can contact me through that number. So that one will bring us to the end of that topic of activity-based costing. Once you attempt these questions, post them and then let me know.